My name's Philip Nunn. I'm Senior Director, as Danielle indicated, for SnapComms. And for those of you who are unaware of SnapComms, we became part of Everbridge around about 18 months ago. And we're an internal communications platform, and we really help organizations across the world to really better reach staff and to able to engage with your employees more effectively. And today I'm joined by Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Deckinger. As Danielle mentioned, I'm the Chief Communications Officer at Everbridge. And I manage the internal and external communications for Everbridge. We're the world's leader in critical event management systems. In our roles, we work as well. I work with a number of senior leaders internally, and we also work with a diverse range of leaders across the business spectrum, from vendors to customers and partners. And the lessons we've learned from all the dealings we've had over the last few years are what we've distilled today, and here what we're here to talk about. Thanks for having us.
All right, and as Danielle mentioned, we're kind of going to tag team this, so you're going to hear both from me and Jessica as we go through this. So nice, try and keep as entertaining as we can. But employees are really looking to their leadership for direction, and we've seen I guess an overall decrease of trust in both government and media, and that's leading to a larger number of workers placing a higher level of trust in their employers. But so the way in which they lead is going to be instrumental in building and maintaining a working environment that is critical to success. And we see around the world, employers are confronting this great resignation trend, employees quitting their jobs, kind of in unprecedented numbers, really. But they're really looking for employers that they can trust. And this really shifts the balance of power from leadership to employees. And that means our leaders need to focus more than ever on really listening to what your employees want and need. But what does make a great leader? And what should we be focusing on? So what traits will make them a success in 2022? So we're going to show you how to deliver what we consider anyway, exceptional leadership, and really connect with your employees through effective corporate communications. And there are 5 key traits leaders need in order to be effective. And we're going to take you through why each one is important and how you can actually achieve these through your corporate communications.
Thanks, Phil. The first leadership trait we want to share with you is just being visible and authentic. Trust is one of the most important things in any relationship. And honestly, that includes our relationship with our employees and employers. Visibility of leaders is key to building the trust, and employees value leaders that regularly face up to staff and speak up about pressing issues. This increased transparency is necessary, and it conveys sincerity and strengthens employee connection. And silent, unseen leaders have the opposite effect. They foster the perception that there's something to hide, and that just isn't acceptable anymore. Leaders today have an expanded mandate. They're expected to take the lead on issues from pandemic impact and job security to sustainability. And the Edelman Trust Barometer we show here shows that 86% of workers expect CEOs to publicly speak out about these challenges. It's important to note that this is talking about workers wanting to hear from CEOs in general, not specifically just their CEO. But the point remains that employees want to hear from leaders. They don't want to have to go digging on their own for information. They want content delivered straight to them in easy to consume formats. Communicating in this way provides the staff with clarity and certainty. They know where the business stands when there's shared information effectively and how this affects them. It also fosters trust between employees and leaders, which more than 60% of staff say is key to job satisfaction today. We always have to remember what powers our teams, our people, and candor with those people earns real trust and authenticity that comes across even on screen. Where you see that kind of leadership happening is where you see the most success. To be visible to your employees can leverage a wide variety of communication channels, honestly, to give your leaders a presence across the organization. Make your town hall meetings interactive, for example. Get employees involved by sending them the questions before the meeting. This is not a regular practice, but should be. Your leaders can share questions that arose most and discuss them during the meeting. By having an active role, employees will feel more engaged in the topics overall. And videos are a great way to help them break through the clutter and engage with their employees. Employees don't always get to see their leaders within their day-to-day working environment, even more so now with remote work. And it makes people feel disconnected. So video is a great alternative for leaders to show their personalities. Great and concise short videos, short is the key, bring a story to life and get employees engaged in the topic. We recommend that we avoid the temptation to spin the message, though employees are savvy enough to see through it, and disingenuity undermines the trust of the message. This can be particularly dangerous in an age where staff can share the information themselves with peers readily through social channels. So it's important to speak authentically, even if the message feels unpalatable. Authenticity will matter.
Thank you, Jessica. Great trait. The second one we want to talk about here is really all about acting with empathy. So every worker is a human being. They're worried about money, their job, their family, and the upheaval of the last few years is, I think, something that we can all share, frankly. And 79% of staff are suffering from some form of burnout. Effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, has really shined a light on the role that empathy plays in leadership, and whether that be in government, companies alike. And it's an issue that affects all levels of an organization. Nearly 45% of managers who feel this way expect to leave their company, and a quarter of them within a year. So we've all spent so much of the last couple of years remote working. It's made all of us feel more isolated. We've traded a cool office culture for a Zoom culture. So instead of a 5-minute discussion in person that we tend to have, we tend to schedule half-an-hour Zoom calls. So I guess it's really not surprising that a lot of us are kind of experiencing this Zoom fatigue. I also personally know not having a commute means there's no switch off time. In my experience, I used to have at least a 45-minute of time where I could, start to think about my day ahead, or perhaps more importantly, start to unwind after my working day's finished. But with us working from home now, we don't tend to get these kind of natural pauses in the working day. So it's just much harder for employees to be able to switch off. Now, one thing that's become clear, though, is that leaders who have shown empathy through this crisis have definitely been the most effective. And empathic leadership is about seeing staff as human beings and understanding how they feel. It's about forging this genuine, deliberate human connection. And so Satya Nadella, I guess we all know who this is, Chairman and CEO of Microsoft, said that the key to everything is empathy, because nothing is more fruitful than walking in the shoes of others. And that's a really great quote that kind of sums up the need and effectiveness of really great empathy. Now, nearly a third of workers would wish that their businesses display more empathy, perhaps not surprisingly, I guess. But in research that SnapComms undertook last year, the link between this empathic leadership and employee experience was really clear. There was a great quote from someone within that research which said that, and I love this, staff don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And this research showed that focusing on an employee experience improves job satisfaction, productivity, corporate reputation, and employee trust in the company by at least 49%. And I love to share this story. One respondent told us a great story about their CEO who delivered a pack of toilet rolls to an employee's house when they were unable to get out and buy some. And it's a really great example of kind of empathic leadership in action. And leaders have to encourage a flexibility in working modes to allow staff to better balance their professional and personal lives. So establishing ways to strengthen employees' connection with their colleagues, celebrating achievement, wins, and so on. And for us in corporate communications, we have to be mindful of our tone in leadership comms. We need to be considerate and intentional of the emotional impact of what we're saying. We need to be mindful of our employees, ask them how they're feeling. So let's ensure that we really actively promote the available support services to ensure that our workers feel supported. Let's really try and help employees bring their real selves to work.
I love the empathic communication style notes. I think it's really so true, rings so true for me. And so it brings us to our next trait, which is about being inspiring, not just informing. Leadership isn't just about today, it's also about tomorrow. And so that concept of what the future holds for the company and why should employees want to stay and be a part of it is vital. It's tempting in leadership to fixate on the past, what's already happened. But studying the results of yesterday, while helpful, doesn't galvanize the business for the future. Great leaders have to be visionary. They inspire staff with a compelling vision of the future and impel them to come along for the ride. They strengthen employees' connection to the company purpose and improve productivity and reduce turnover by inspiring. As Donald McGannon said on this slide, he's the chairman of Westinghouse Broadcasting, leadership is an action, not a position. And inspiration is a proven predictor of performance. When employees are inspired to perform, they're more genuinely invested in their work. Your leaders are figureheads for the organization, and they set the benchmark for other leaders and line managers to follow. They surround themselves with great people who work together, and those people together make amazing teams. Through communications, we can harness the positive leadership to inspire everyone to overcome their challenges and strive for success. It's about encouraging staff to want to engage with the messages, the empathy that Phil just talked about. You want them to follow and not feel forced to follow, but feel inspired to follow. Help employees visualize the promise for the future. How will new initiatives improve working conditions? How will they improve efficiencies? Or how will job satisfaction go up? Portraying a positive picture of where the organization is headed through digital display screen messages which reach employees in visually engaging and targeted ways is a key way to do this. Broadcast video updates showing how employees are modeling new values can inspire, and then reiterating the company mission and values to help employees see their meaning and purpose of their work. It helps them to see how their job benefits a larger goal and how they're part of the bigger picture.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. So moving on, fourth trait, I guess hopefully this will be music to the ears of all of us on this call, but this is really all about communicating honestly and regularly. And so there's no shortage of information these days. I think we can all say that we're suffering from some form of infobesity or infoxication, pardon our use of these words here. But we're all breathing in this kind of information pollution. And our employees are completely bombarded by emails, for example, day in, day out. But within this infodemic, what's often missing is a real sense of that clear, reliable information, that honesty and regular communication. And as I said before, employers are looking to leaders as the source of truth. So news and events that we see at the macro level really need to be distilled down by leaders into what does that mean to the organization and its staff. And really effective leadership communication doesn't only just keep staff informed of everything they need to know, it assuages any concerns that they have, and it really reconnects them to the values of the organization. And I guess it's probably no surprise to any of us here that after the last couple of years of disruption caused by COVID, the importance of regular employee communications rose by 44% in 2021. And so providing this truthful, unbiased, trustworthy information has to be a priority for this year, for 2022. But it should be done carefully and deliberately. We use the word intentionally a lot, and that's intentional, pardon the pun. But communicating badly is far worse than not communicating at all. And with the EX research that we spoke about previously, the research that SnapCom's completed, we found that poor communications was the number one negative influence on employee experience, much higher than role-related stress, poor training, or even bad relationships with a manager. So having a scheduled leadership communication plan is really essential for maintaining that consistency. Remember, you can't over-communicate, but you absolutely can under-communicate. And so use multiple channels to deliver content in diverse ways. Jessica talked about video as being a great way to communicate. So include your CEO video updates on the state of the business. They can pop up on employee computer screens, or monthly newsletters with leaders' personal perspective on, quote, the view from the top. And a lack of new information just is not a reason to stay silent. A regular cadence of communication has to be maintained. I hate to say it, but even if there's really nothing new to say.
Thanks. I think the most important for me, is with all these things, wrapping with this concept of being an active listener. It's a critical leadership trait, and it sounds like a cliche, but it is true. Communication has to be a two-way street. The way messages are received determines their effectiveness, and if staff respond poorly to a piece of communication, the whole purpose behind the message is undermined. So, especially with the Great Resignation happening in many places around the world at the moment, it's more important than ever for leaders to focus on truly listening to what employees want and need. Active listening is the practice of paying attention to the content, intent, and the feeling of the speaker. So it's about being aware of what the employee means, not just what they say. And often these two can be very different things. It's an attribute which sets great leaders apart. The quality of listening has a 40% impact on leadership effectiveness. How can leaders become active listeners, good active listeners too? And what role does corporate comms play in this? Those are important questions. Leaders have to tune into the nonverbal behavior and emotions happening, listening without interrupting. avoiding the temptation to jump to conclusions and solutions. It's very easy to do those things, but they need to provide positive reinforcement throughout and allow people to speak openly. And understanding the perspective of employees provides leaders an invaluable perspective on the mood of the workplace and suggests areas of concern which should be addressed, but also it supports successful management of workplace conflict and difficult situations you might otherwise not be aware of. Active listening applies to employee comments made on both face-to-face and digitally, which sometimes get ignored, such as through an online survey. So digital channels will give you the chance to really reach all those employees and identify potential issues that may be affecting your organization. And responses to online surveys